Rock Island was quite and one of the most important railroads here in Blue Island. One of the things that called it to be central here in Blue Island was the fact of the roundhouse that you see here. And this was during the period of the steam locomotives and when they serviced this area. There were two sections of the railroad, one that ran to Joliet and the other one that ran to the suburban service from Blue Island to the Sale Street Station. They both wound up at the same place, and the tracks at about 63rd Street or somewhere along there of the Blue Island run would join up with the main line tracks running into the city. The locomotive, the roundhouse, was probably one of the most important things. People nowadays would have no idea what and why they had a roundhouse. The locomotive would go out on this section through here, and then it would turn in a circle, and then they would be directed into the areas where they worked on the locomotive then. And they may head it in and then bring it back out and then back it out or whatever position it was in. The era of the steam locomotives, I'm not familiar with this one. That's 4 sets of driving wheels. And my father explained to me one time that those driver wheels actually left the rails as they were turning. And they found this out because they put cameras down there to see, because the power impulse would occur on the wheel as that driving rod was on it, and actually the wheel of that big gigantic locomotive would leave, and the wheel would actually pound the railroad tracks. So they take a great deal of punishment on those tracks. Tracks in later years on the locomotive were one continuous welded track. They were not pieces that were joined together and had the separation in there for expansion, contraction, and where you hear that clickety-clack, clickety-clack, clickety-clack in the train. The solid welded rails were much different. And those ties that were underneath the track bed, years ago when they installed the ties and the wooden ties in there, they were treated with creosote to make them last and keep them from rotting. But when they put those ties in the tracks, why, they would drive a nail in there, and each railroad had a significant identification to the nails that they drove in. Some had heads that were raised, some had depression numbers in the nail that was driven in there, and they would drive the last two numbers of the year in which they put that track in service, so they could tell how the certain ties were lasting and the longevity of certain railroad ties.